So next, we talk about resilience. You see here the wolves struggling through the snow. And you know, when it's quite sluggish to move forward, the wolves will know that the strongest wolf will head the pack to get through the snow. And that's the way how to deal with this sluggish economy or this winter for the wolves. All right, next. I have here Eric Dix. He's partner of Chainalytics. And Chainalytics is a supply chain consultancy firm in Europe. And maybe, Eric, you can explain, you have different offices. Maybe you can talk a bit briefly about Chainalytics, heritage, and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, thank you, Martijn. Yeah, so Chainalytics is a company that was founded in 2001 in the US by Mike Kilgore. And it has been growing since then. Right now we have 250 supply chain professionals around the world. And I'm happy to lead the European side of that, where we have around 37 supply chain professionals. And what we are trying to do is really help companies with increasing their maturity, getting more value out of their current supply chains.
So I know you do all kind of services, also forecasting as a services, but also supply chain projects, implementations, and you have different offices all over Europe. Am I correct?
That's right. So in Europe we have teams in Finland, in Italy, in the Netherlands, and those people are focusing on different parts of the supply chain. So we call it competencies. So three major kind of competencies that we are focusing on is helping clients with their planning, improving demand and supply matching, helping them with their footprint, optimizing distribution, footprint, manufacturing footprint to determine where do you need to have your DC, how many DCs do you need to have, what should be the scope of a DC, the capacity of a DC. And the third one is transportation. How do you organize the transportation between all these different facilities in a good kind of way? What kind of transportation modes do you need to have? What is a good price to pay for transportation? So those are kind of the three pillars here in Europe.
And the last pillar is also about, you know, you gather all kind of data from carriers and what are the costs to track down what companies are paying and if they could save some money by changing their lanes or whatever.
Yeah, so we have access, and that we are the founder of Freight Market Intelligence Consortium. And that consortium gathers all the data around what is the price that companies are paying for freight, and how much should they pay for freight, given kind of the characteristics of the transport.
And especially in the last year, these prices are changing rapidly.
Yes.
Dramatically.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you take a look to the transportation out of Asia. I think there the container prices have been kind of skyrocketing, and there we've seen kind of multiples, and therefore also companies started to kind of think about, do we need to change? Do we need to change our footprint? Do we need to change our kind of inventory policies? How do we address with this kind of very strongly changing environment? And that's why probably also supply chain resilience is kind of on the top of the list in order to kind of deal with these changing environments.
And if you look at this slide, you know, it's about building a more resilient supply chain.
Yeah.
So you have different kind of levels. Maybe you can explain how to read this slide.
Yeah, so I think in order to build more resilience, you need to take a look at the different kind of layers in your supply chain. So first of all, it's around doing the right things. What do I mean with that? Is having the right infrastructure, focusing on the right products, the right customers, having the right inventory policies. So making sure that you are kind of focused on the right thing. But that's not the only thing. The other layer is the things that you are doing, you also need to do in a very good and efficient way. So doing the things right. And so there you see that planning is a very important process in order to enable, for example, the scenario analysis that you were talking about. Companies, when there's a lot of change, they would like to know, okay, how can I optimize supply chain? That requires running those scenarios, and therefore you need data, and you need to have a good kind of planning systems in order to do that. I think, during the last 2 years, it became more and more a trend, known that, companies were struggling with that, struggling with kind of running the scenarios, having the right data accuracy, and so therefore they started kind of saying, okay, we need to start improving our maturity on the planning side. We need to have a good demand planning and supply planning process. How can we improve that? How can we improve the technology, the processes, and kind of our people? And there we've seen a lot of companies starting to kind of doing that journey. But it's not easy to go from, say, an immature planning system to immediately to kind of a very mature planning system. So.
And you also mentioned here a control tower. It has been a bit of a buzzword in the last 5 years. So how can you explain to put it there in a slide?
Yeah, so I think a control tower is kind of the way to take a look. What is the impact of the decisions that I'm taking? So what you want to see, of course, is if you run your scenarios, what is the impact on service level? What's the impact on capacity? What is the impact on cost? And you want to do that in a simple way that will help you to drive changes in your supply chain. And like you said, sustainability is a new one that is also more and more important. And so also we've seen now clients saying to us, let's not only try to optimize the footprint from a cost perspective or from a service level perspective, but let's also try to reduce the CO2. And so let's take a look at, can we change transportation modes and get more rail involved instead of trucks, so as to reduce CO2.
So the control tower should also address this kind of cost thinking and carbon thinking and compare it and to make better decisions in both ways.
Absolutely, yes.
And I was wondering, on a strategic level, there's a lot of talk about reducing complexity, but I don't hear that much that companies are looking at their portfolios. SKUs were growing massively in the last decades, so the catalogs were getting bigger and bigger. What do you see in that area of reducing complexity by better segmentation and a portfolio reduction?
Well, I still see that there's a big opportunity there for companies to get closer in understanding their product profitability and their customer profitability. Mm-hmm. With respect to kind of optimizing the product portfolio, we've seen quite some interesting kind of things. So when COVID hit, some companies kind of said, we need to reduce our portfolio significantly because otherwise we're not going to be able to deliver. Mm-hmm. There are too many changeovers in our manufacturing sites, and so in the US we saw shrinking product portfolios. But on the other hand, you also see that customers are getting more demanding. You see a lot of customization in the product portfolio. So there's also a kind of a drive to kind of more SKUs. And then the big question, of course, is how can I do that without changing the complexity in such a way that my cost also increase? So I see kind of the two different kind of movements go on. But what is important, I guess, is getting clarity on how does complexity translate into cost. And there I still see some road ahead of us.
Yeah, and basically, there's a need to have a better cost to serve insights. Yep. So you have to, you have to do your ABC cost analysis on one hand, but on the other hand, you see also the drives, like you said, that companies are forced to reduce the portfolio, like Daimler-Benz only producing the high-end vehicles with more margin and don't selling the cheaper ones. Yeah. But when we look ahead, and it was also mentioned by the chief supply chain officers, because of the scarcity of materials, you have to make some choices. So even the marketing and sales people should be aware of the scarcity, that they should look at their portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear a lot of my clients also dealing with this kind of scarcity of materials. I think there also the big problem is that 1 week there's scarcity on one material, and the next week it's on another material. And what makes it very difficult is that not always the visibility is that great about which is the material that's going to hit me next week or in 2-3 weeks from now. So also again coming back to kind of the scenario analysis, being able to kind of translate what does a scarcity in a certain material mean for my finished products, and how do I address my key customers and make sure that I'm making the right decisions.
So a year ago, especially in the US, there were a lot of articles with the headline going from just in time to just in case. And as a result, all kind of buyers were buying all the stock they could get. And as a result, now we see all the warehouses are full of inventory. And most of the times, not the wrong ones. So they were, there was a supply shortage, so they were buying the lot. And then later on, demand fell down, and now you see a lot of companies with overstocked warehouses. So what is the implication of that? What do companies do? Not just go from just in time to just in case, but what are the main alleyways to follow to prevent that you have the wrong stock and the wrong raw materials?
Yeah, well, I think it's one is of course on the demand side to better understand what is going to be the orders that we need to fulfill in the next coming periods. So improving the quality of the forecast is still, I would say, an important element. Companies are still struggling, and still a lot of companies are just taking a look at what did I do last year around this time, or what was my last month looking like, and kind of using that. Well, that is not sufficient anymore. There are better ways to do that, and so that's one thing where companies are getting smarter now in using statistical forecast, and even I would say the best the best kind of companies in this area are kind of also taking a look at machine learning and artificial intelligence. But then also on the supply side, creating that visibility, I think that's also what I'm hearing a lot. Like the scarcity of materials is hitting us, whereas we could have known it if we had kind of better visibility of what's going on with our suppliers. So also that's something that we see a lot, that a lot of companies are now focusing on. How can we improve that visibility towards suppliers?
And in this slide, you also mentioned the shorter term or the execution operational area and the planning side. So Chainalytics is also helping out companies implementing supply chain planning software from Blue Yonder, O9 Solution, and iPlan. Can you tell me about the experience? Because you just mentioned machine learning and AI. How do you apply this machine learning AI, and how do you know that companies are mature enough to apply it?
Well, what we see there is that you need to tailor your approach towards the maturity where a company is in, and so we typically call about crawl, walk, run, where when a company is kind of changing from Excels to a technology like Blue Yonder or O9. It's not the first thing that you're going to kind of implement AI ML. Some companies really like to do that, but it's not the right way. You first need to kind of make sure that you have a working process, that you're kind of also using the intelligence which is in the heads of the sales people, and so AI ML is something that more comes in kind of step 2 or step 3, definitely not in step 1. And that's also what kind of we're doing now with our clients, is kind of focusing on going through in these different steps. And also, to be honest, if you have a very well tailored statistical forecasting technique, usually that works better than AI and ML. in order for AI ML to kind of outperform these traditional, well kind of tuned techniques, requires more data and the right data. So you need to then think about what are additional data sources that we can use, which are also relevant for the forecasting process that we can use. And that's definitely not trivial.
And you also mentioned in a pre-call we had, you're implementing O9 solution in the seed industry, and that you created a template to have a better and a quicker implementation.
Yeah, definitely. So I think industries are not the same in terms of the types of challenges that they have. So we're doing several implementations right now in the seed industry, and in order to kind of tackle that, we've developed an industry template within O9 in order to not develop everything from scratch, and use that template to implement more quicker. But also, I think companies appreciate that, kind of seeing like, hey, we're not starting from scratch. We're using the knowledge that is already in the template in a prescribed way, without developing it from scratch.
And probably these companies are recognizing that you understand their business, you are talking their language.
Yeah, that is very important because well, in the seed industry, there are very specific kind of constraints that you need to address. To give you an example, if you grow a certain seed in a company and you want to deliver it to a customer in another country, then there can be constraints that if it's grown in one country, you cannot deliver it to another country, and so there can be a lot of restrictions. So just taking a look at inventory is not really helping you, because you need to know where is this inventory build of, where is it coming from, and so also you need to know where is it going to. So there's a lot of complexity there. And also the granularity is quite different from what you typically see in the industry. So here, if you're talking about forecast, you need to know the forecast for the next 4 or 5 years. So how many vegetables, tomatoes, and other crops are you going to sell? Quite difficult to kind of get to know that. But yeah, you have to do it, because at the end you're talking about a product that you cannot just increase. You need to take a decision, grow that crop, and then hopefully it's matching with your predictions.
Another thing, and we see it in the next slide. You mentioned that you have created a game on the matter of supply chain network design. Can you explain a bit what it's like and why you did it?
Yeah, so what we've experienced is that it's very important to optimize the network and to optimize the footprint. And I think many of our direct clients, supply chain directors, understand what it means. But at the end, the supply chain directors also need to work with their commercial counterpart, with their marketing counterpart, with their financial counterpart. And they usually are not immediately kind of understanding what does it mean to optimize a supply chain from an infrastructure point of view. And and we were experiencing that as well as a consultant when talking to our clients, that sometimes it's very difficult to give an impression on what does it take to optimize a supply chain, and what are the different trade-offs, because you're talking about cost, CO2, service level, capacities. There are a lot of different factors in there. So yeah, we've developed a supply chain network design game that allows people to play this in 1.5 to 2 hours, to really build a network themselves, to see what is the impact on cost, on service level, on capacities. Yeah, so far, yeah, we're hearing a lot of good things. People start to understand that it's more difficult than they initially thought. Getting understanding of the different trade-offs that are there. But also, yeah, it's also a lot of fun, and I guess playing a management game usually helps a lot in getting an understanding in a very nice way. So we're kind of doing this now with our clients, but also we're kind of using this now to show to the market, what is possible in this area. And we'll also be having a webinar shortly where we are going to play this with whoever is interested in getting to know what is a network design all about.
And the supply chain professionals probably in the audience will know that way back it was just, when you are working with LlamaSoft and supply chain network design, it was a very specialized job and very difficult to do that, And now you created something that's more tangible and probably more digestible for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
But with how many people are you going to play that? Are you playing against each other? Are you playing against a computer? Playing against a competitor?
No, so it's we can play it with say 10 people. I think we played it one time with 60 people. That's quite a lot. But I would say kind of the sweet spot would be around 20, 30 people, and then we divide the people into groups, and so there's also a little bit of an element of competition in there as well to see who can build the best supply chain. We're playing several rounds. And every round there's a different type of complexity. And at the end of every round, we're kind of taking a look at who's kind of winning, who has the best kind of service level, cost. And we've played it kind of on site, also with universities being on site, having people in the room playing with their own laptop. But we have also played it just remote, and people calling in and becoming part of a team, which is nowadays much easier with kind of Zooms where you can, and Teams where you can kind of build these groups.
It's good to know that you can play this kind of games and play out these scenarios I discussed earlier in a military way, but then now in supply chain way.
Yes.
Eric, thanks for joining us. Thank you for explaining me, and we'll stay in touch about the game. And maybe I will play it myself in the near future. Thanks.
Thank you.